Asked my BF if I could go to the gym alone and he accused me of looking for male attention, but our fight revealed he was hurt because he overheard me telling something to my friends. I, 26F, have been in a committed relationship with my boyfriend, 27 meters, for almost 5 years now. We met through mutual friends at a house party back in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. We started dating and ended up quarantining together, which fast-tracked our relationship. We have a really good relationship and have blended our lives together pretty well, up until this point. We've been living together for about a year and a half in a decent apartment in Etobicoke. It's a 3-bedroom place in a newer building with amenities like underground parking and a small shared gym that nobody really uses because the equipment is always broken. I work from home full-time as a marketing coordinator for an e-commerce company, and he works hybrid as a health and safety specialist for a construction company. He usually only has to go to work in person 3 times a week, which means he's home with me a lot. The apartment feels small sometimes when we're both working from home. My desk is in the 2nd bedroom, while he takes over the dining table. Sometimes I can hear him on his calls through the wall, which can be distracting when I'm trying to focus on my own work. I've invested in good noise-canceling headphones, but still, there's something about knowing someone else is just on the other side of the wall. We have separate friend groups, and I'm able to have my girls' nights, but we're all adults and have pretty busy schedules, so that really only ends up being once a month or so. My closest friends are Jen and Sarah, who I've known since college. Jen works as a nurse, so her schedule is all over the place, and Sarah has 2 kids under 5, so getting her out of the house is like planning a military operation. Even then, I live really close by a lot of my girlfriends, so I end up going home at the end of the night. It's not like I'm staying over anywhere else. Last time I went out with the girls, we just had dinner and drinks at a local restaurant, nothing wild. We spent most of the time talking about Sarah's kids and Jen's dating disasters. I was home by 11 p.m. and found him asleep on the couch with Netflix still playing. My boyfriend's friends are mostly guys he knows from college and work. There's Mike, who he's known since high school, and a couple of guys from his current job. Sometimes they meet up to watch sports or play video games. They went to a Leafs game last month and came back pretty drunk. He was stumbling around the apartment, trying to tell me about the game while slurring his words. I didn't mind though, it's good for him to have his own social time. I made him drink water and take some Advil before bed, and he woke up the next morning groaning about his headache. I just laughed and made him a greasy breakfast. Now here is the problem. At the beginning of the year, my boyfriend and I made a New Year's resolution to start going to the gym more often. Super cringe, I know. We both put on some weight during COVID and never really lost it. Plus, I've been feeling more sluggish lately, and he's been complaining about his back hurting from sitting at his desk all day. We signed up at the gym close to our apartment. It's a bit pricey at $80 each per month, but has good equipment and classes. It became a great addition to our routine. We would go together right after he finished work, around 6 p.m., and spend about an hour and a half there. It worked well with our schedule since I can wrap up my work whenever I want. For the first month, we were both really motivated. We'd go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, come home and cook a healthy dinner, and feel good about ourselves. I started noticing small changes in my body, my clothes fit a bit better, I had more energy, and I wasn't getting winded climbing the stairs to our apartment. He was seeing results too, especially in his arms and shoulders, which I definitely appreciated. 2 weeks ago, he caught a really bad cold, was homesick for a few days and wasn't able to go to the gym. It started with a sore throat, then he got all stuffed up and was coughing all night. He tested negative for COVID, but whatever virus he had really knocked him out. I made him soup and tea, picked up some cold medicine, the usual stuff. He was pretty miserable and spent most of his time in bed watching shows on his laptop. I tried to work from the living room to give him space, but our apartment isn't that big, so I could still hear him coughing and blowing his nose from the other room. I still wanted to keep up with our gym routine, so I went by myself and I realized how nice it was to get a few hours all to myself. I went at 4 p.m. instead of waiting until 6 p.m., and the gym was much less crowded. There weren't lines for the machines, and I could actually hear myself think. I liked that I didn't have to work around his work schedule. I liked that I was just able to go by myself and grab a coffee on the way, listen to Megan Thee Stallion loudly in the car. There's something freeing about blasting music that your partner doesn't particularly enjoy. I can't tell you how refreshing it was to just sing along to Savage at the top of my lungs without him giving me that look he does when he's not impressed with my music choices. I liked that I was able to catch a yoga class, and I've been debating doing a Pilates class here or there. The yoga instructor was this older woman who had amazing energy and really took the time to adjust everyone's poses. I felt more relaxed after that hour than I had in months. My boyfriend mainly likes to focus on cardio and some weight training. He spends most of his time on the treadmill or with the free weights, and sometimes uses the rowing machine. I've asked him if he'd be interested in doing a class and he said that they were a waste of time. He once said, "Why would I pay to have someone tell me to stretch when I can just run on the treadmill and actually burn calories?" I let it go because everyone has their preferences, but I've always been curious about trying different fitness classes. The gym offers everything from HIIT to bar to spin, and I want to experiment to find what I enjoy most. I didn't realize how much time we were spending together until I actually got a moment to think. It hit me when I was driving home from the gym alone, just enjoying the silence. Other than him going to work and hanging out with his friends, we spend every living moment together. We have breakfast together. Every morning it's the same routine. I make coffee while he makes toast or cereal. He likes his coffee black, while I add oat milk and a bit of honey to mine. We sit at the kitchen counter scrolling on our phones before starting work. Sometimes we'll chat about what we have planned for the day, but often it's just comfortable silence while we both wake up. We have lunch together when he's at home. Usually leftovers from dinner or sandwiches. Sometimes we watch an episode of whatever show we're currently binging while we eat. If it's nice outside, we might sit on our small balcony, which is barely big enough for 2 chairs and a tiny table. He's always asking what I'm having, even though there are leftovers in the fridge he could choose from. We have dinner together. I cook most nights since I'm home anyway. I've gotten pretty good at meal planning and trying new recipes. He's appreciative of the food, but rarely offers to cook himself. When he does, it's usually pasta with jar sauce or something simple. He helps with dishes sometimes, but I end up doing most of the kitchen cleanup. I don't mind cooking, I actually enjoy it, but sometimes I wish he'd take the initiative more often. We watch movies and TV together. We're currently making our way through some sci-fi series he picked. Before that, it was a crime documentary I wanted to watch. We compromise on entertainment, but we're always watching it together. Our evening routine is pretty set: dinner, TV, maybe some scrolling on our phones, then bed. On weekends, we might watch a movie or two. We also spend most weekends together, whether it's doing chores around the apartment, visiting his parents who live about an hour away, or just lounging around. Sometimes we'll meet up with friends for dinner or drinks, but it's almost always as a couple. The last time I can remember spending a weekend day completely apart was when he went on a fishing trip with his dad and brother about 6 months ago. I love spending time with him and I love being around him. None of this is an issue for me. But I can't remember the last time I farted and he wasn't there to make a joke about it. That sounds silly, but it's true. We're constantly in each other's space. I can't even remember the last time I had the apartment completely to myself for more than a couple hours. Even when he goes to work, he's home by 5:30 p.m. And when he goes out with friends, it's usually just for a game or a few beers, not an all-day thing. After realizing this, I spoke to my boyfriend and asked if he would be okay if I started going to the gym on my own. We were having dinner at the time. He didn't really understand and took it as an offense. His fork stopped midway to his mouth, and he had this confused look on his face, like I had just spoken in a foreign language. He asked if I didn't like working out with him. I responded that while I liked working out with him, I also enjoyed working out on my own and being able to do classes that he wouldn't necessarily enjoy. I explained that I'd had a really good experience with the yoga class and wanted to try some other classes that were offered during the afternoon. He said if it was a timing thing that he would sacrifice his lunchtime and go with me midday if that's what I preferred. He even offered to rearrange his work calls to accommodate an earlier gym time. I thought this was sweet but also kind of missing the point. It wasn't about the timing, it was about having space to myself. I pushed back, said it wasn't about it, I just wanted some girly time and well-needed space. That's when his expression changed. He put his fork down and leaned back in his chair. His whole demeanor shifted, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. He then proceeded to accuse me of wanting to go to the gym for a specific reason, insinuating that I was going there for male attention. "So what's his name?" he asked, trying to make it sound like a joke but with an edge to his voice. I could tell he was half serious, which was both irritating and hurtful. I, of course, was insulted and told him that wasn't the case at all and that I just needed one thing a week that was just for me. I pointed out that he gets to go to work and see other people, while I'm at home all day. We finished dinner in uncomfortable silence, both of us pushing pasta around our plates more than eating it. He let it go for about a day, but proceeded to make petty comments every now and then about my so-called odd behavior. When I was getting ready to go to the gym alone, he asked, "Wearing your new leggings today?" in a tone that suggested something more. Another time, he noticed me putting on mascara before leaving and said, "Must be a really intense workout if you need makeup for it." This week as I was getting ready for the gym, I put on a really cute gym set, and I'm not gonna lie, it was flattering in curvy areas. It was a matching set I had ordered online a month ago but hadn't worn yet. The leggings were high-waisted and actually stayed up during workouts, and the sports bra provided enough support without squishing me flat. He started with his bullshit again and made rude remarks that the only reason I wanted to go to the gym was so that I could get checked out without him being a deterrent for other guys looking at me. "You never wore that kind of stuff when we went together," he said. "Suddenly you need to look extra cute for your solo workouts?" His tone was accusatory, and his arms were crossed over his chest. This was the third or fourth comment like this he had made, and I was getting really tired of it. I matched his energy and told him that maybe if he wasn't constantly breathing my air, I wouldn't feel like I was suffocating in my own house. Yes, I know it was mean, but honestly, he was wearing me down. I grabbed my gym bag and left without saying goodbye, slamming the door a little harder than necessary on my way out. I sat in my car for a minute, taking deep breaths to calm down before driving to the gym. The workout was good. I took a spin class and pushed myself harder than usual, probably working out some of my frustration. but the whole time, his comments were echoing in my head, souring what should have been an enjoyable experience. When I came back from the gym, he was playing video games with his headphones on and barely acknowledged me. I waved as I walked past, but he just nodded slightly without taking his eyes off the screen. Since I made that remark, he's been very short with me, responding to my questions with one-word answers or just telling me that he wasn't in the mood to talk. I asked him what he wanted for dinner and he just shrugged and said whatever. I asked if he wanted to watch the next episode of our show and he said he was too tired. The next morning at breakfast, he was on his phone the entire time, not engaging in our usual morning chat. I understand that I hurt his feelings, and apologized for what I said. He shrugged me off. "It's fine," he said, then went back to scrolling on his phone. But it clearly wasn't fine, as he continued to give me the cold shoulder. He went to work the next day without his usual goodbye kiss, just a mumbled "see you later" as he headed out the door. The thing is, I don't think it's unreasonable to want some time to myself. Before we moved in together, we obviously had our separate lives and spaces. I had my own apartment, and he had his. We would spend most weekends together and maybe 1 or 2 nights during the week, but we also had time apart. Now it feels like we've merged into one person, and I'm starting to miss my independence. It's not that I don't want to be with him. I love him, and I see a future with him. But I also think it's healthy to maintain some individuality in a relationship. Going to the gym alone felt like a small step toward reclaiming a bit of my own identity. So am I the asshole for wanting to go to the gym on my own? If anyone has any advice about how I can explain to him why this is important to me, let me know. I don't want this to become a bigger issue than it needs to be. How do I make him understand that wanting time alone doesn't mean I don't want to be with him? Posted on a throwaway, my boyfriend knows my really. I'm on like every K-drama sub under the sun lol. Relevant comment, look at it this way. In his mind everything between you two is perfect. He loves spending every second with you and doesn't see you being smothered. You aren't wrong for wanting alone time. Now look at it from his perspective. He goes on Reddit and posts that his perfect life with his perfect girlfriend is in jeopardy because ever since she started going to the gym, she now wants to go by herself for alone time. Certainly some guy must have caught her attention and she is interested in him. 90% of the responses will be that he is probably right and you will cheat on him soon if you haven't already. Everyone who reads this knows it's true. Talk to him. Reassure him. I can't tell you how to do it, but do your best. Let him know how important he is to you. Update, I just want to say thank you to everyone that replied. My post got way more attention than I expected, and I've been overwhelmed. I tried to answer a few questions last week, but there was just too much. I also just wanted to clarify that my man is not controlling, neither of us are cheating, and he's not abusive in any way at all. Some of you are making wild assumptions in the comments, and I want to set that straight. We've been together for 5 years. One argument doesn't define our entire relationship. Some of you are asking about our history. Like I mentioned, we met right before the pandemic. Our relationship got serious quickly because we ended up quarantining together at his place when lockdown started. What was supposed to be a weekend stay turned into 3 months. It was a bit of a trial by fire, but we made it work. After that, we did long distance for about 6 months while I was staying with my parents in another city. Once things opened up more, I moved back to the city and got my own place, and then about 1.5 years ago, we decided to move in together. Okay, now on to the update. After a week of us pretending like the situation blew over, it wasn't resolved. I wasn't sure what more to do. We were acting normal on the surface, still having meals together, watching TV, sleeping in the same bed, but there was this underlying tension that neither of us was addressing. When I'd mentioned going to the gym, he'd just nod without saying anything. When he'd come home from work, he wouldn't tell me about his day like he usually does. There was this awkward politeness between us, like roommates who don't know each other well rather than partners of 5 years. I took all of your advice and wanted to talk this out, more maturely. So thinking this was just a space issue, and poor communication, I asked my BF to talk about it seriously. I waited until after dinner on a weeknight when we usually just veg out on the couch. I turned off the TV and sat facing him. He looked surprised, but put his phone down and gave me his attention. Logically, if I needed space, maybe he was feeling the same way. I laid out my feelings again, mentioned everything I said in the last post. I told him that I totally understand it must have been jarring for me to suddenly not want to follow through on our New Year's resolution. I pointed out that we spend almost all our time together, and while I love his company, I sometimes need to do things on my own. I mentioned how I used to have hobbies before we moved in together, and how I missed having activities that were just for me. I offered a compromise of us splitting the gym time, still go together but also do our own things. I'll go for my classes alone when they pop up, but also go to the machines and stuff with him. I thought this was a fair solution. We'd still have our gym time together, but I'd also get some space. Maybe we could go together on weekends, and I could go alone during the week. I reassured that I only had eyes for him, and offered to save my nicer sets for when we go together. I even showed him my schedule for the yoga classes I was interested in, to prove there was nothing suspicious about my timing. Most of them were in the middle of the afternoon when the gym is less crowded, not times when people typically go to socialize or meet others. He looked annoyed that I brought it up again. Told me that he's over it and just do what I want to do. He was doing that thing where he pretends nothing's wrong but his body language says otherwise. He was sitting stiffly, arms crossed, barely making eye contact. He kept glancing at his phone like he was hoping for an interruption. I of course didn't accept this. I wanted a resolution we'd both be happy with. I pressed for his true opinion, and oh boy, it was not about the gym at all. So I truly was the asshole too. Last November I hosted a girls' night at our apartment, just two of my close friends, Jen and Sarah. We ordered pizza, opened some wine, and spent the evening catching up. Sarah brought photos of her kids' Halloween costumes, and Jen was telling us about a disaster date she'd been on the previous weekend. My BF was home but vacated the area and went to relax in our bedroom after dinner. He said he wanted to give us girl time and disappeared to watch something on his laptop with headphones. Long story short, he had overheard a conversation where I said I wished we had more romance in our relationship. For context, I watch a lot of Korean dramas and said I wished I could be whisked away and yearned over like a period piece baddie. My friends were laughing, saying their boyfriends weren't romantic either. Jen was teasing me about my K-drama obsession, and Sarah was saying how her husband hadn't done anything romantic since their second child was born. It was just typical girl talk, comparing our relationships to unrealistic standards in media. The K-drama part was a joke, but there was truth to my wish for more romantic notions. Understandably, he took this to heart. I had no idea he had heard us talking. He must have come out to grab something from the kitchen and overheard us through the hallway. I felt a bit of guilt knowing he'd heard me complaining about him to my friends, even if it was relatively mild. I tried to explain what I meant was that we barely go on dates anymore. I felt like we were always in PJs around each other. We used to make an effort, dressing up for dinner at nice restaurants, planning day trips to nearby towns, surprising each other with small gifts. But lately, we'd fallen into a routine of takeout and Netflix. Even our intimate times feel scheduled, always after dinner or before a show, never spontaneous. I felt like we were too young for that. We're in our mid-20s, not our 50s. I didn't expect grand gestures like in the dramas, just more effort than we were currently putting in. His perspective was the complete opposite. He said that he feels like I don't appreciate the way he takes care of me. He mentioned the fact that he made sacrifices to move for me, that he foots majority of the bills, that he's looking for new jobs all because I suggested it, that he always gets my favorite takeouts without asking, and other more personal things about his family I don't feel comfortable sharing. His voice was getting louder as he listed these things, and I could tell he'd been bottling this up for a while. I know some of you will be curious. The sacrifices he's mentioning was moving from his previous one-bedroom apartment to our current three-bedroom. There wasn't enough space at his old place for the two of us, plus our home offices. His place was a tiny one-bedroom in an older building with no amenities. The move was inevitable, and we viewed all of our options together. It's even closer to his job, so I'm not sure what his issue is. It felt like he was rewriting history to make it seem like he'd done me some huge favor by moving to a nicer place that benefits both of us. As for the job, he's always complaining about how hard it is, how he has no free time. He works in health and safety, so I always tell him to find a new job that makes him happier. He'll come home stressed, talking about difficult project managers or unreasonable deadlines, and I suggest he look for something that doesn't drain him so much. I thought I was being supportive, but apparently he took it as criticism. Like I was saying he couldn't handle his job, rather than wanting him to be happier. If you're wondering, we split the bills based on our incomes, what I thought was a fair split. We live in Ontario, Etobicoke. It's expensive here, but I pay what I can afford. He makes about 30% more than I do, so he pays a bit more toward rent and utilities. Our rent is $2,500 a month, and I pay $1,100 while he pays $1,400. We split groceries and other shared expenses 50-50. Plus, I'm home more, I end up doing more chores than him. I cook almost every night, I do most of the cleaning, I handle the grocery shopping during the week. He does take out the trash and handles most of the maintenance stuff around the apartment, like changing light bulbs or unclogging drains. The takeout is not even a fair point, seeing as I cook him dinner every night. We don't buy food. Maybe once a week he'll pick up food on his way home from work, and yes, he usually gets what I like. But I'm cooking the other 6 nights a week, planning meals, making grocery lists, and cleaning up afterward. Trust me, I pull my weight as a partner, it's not up for debate. This all relates to the gym fight because he said he felt like I was complaining about him and then looking for solutions elsewhere. I kinda translated that as me making him feel like I was looking for romance outside of our relationship. I don't know, but he sure pissed me TF off, and we fought about it for a good hour and a half. Lol. So you think buying me pad thai occasionally makes up for lack of actual romance? I asked him. And you think I should be grateful for moving to a bigger place that benefits both of us? I was standing at this point, pacing around our living room while he remained on the couch. He threw back, well, you clearly aren't satisfied with anything I do, so why would I bother trying? Now you don't even want to spend time with me at the gym. He was getting louder too, and at one point our upstairs neighbor thumped on the floor, which made us both lower our voices. Anyways, after cooling down I apologized to him for everything I said. It was a private conversation, but it still was wrong to say. I assured him I was only referring to frivolous things like flowers and going out on dates, not his character as a partner. I just want us to be more lovey-dovey, less like roommates. I miss the days when we'd send each other sweet texts during the day. I told him I appreciate everything he's done for me and for our relationship, and said I was sorry for ever making him feel as though he wasn't doing enough. I stood my ground on how it was unfair of him to see his sacrifices and efforts in our house as one-sided. I show up for him on a daily basis. Prior to moving in, I held him down through some difficult times with his family and continue to adjust my life around his schedule. I reminded him of how I supported him when his mom was sick last year, and how I've always been there for him during work stress. I was more insulted with that than anything else. He apologized as well for giving me the cold shoulder, for what he said about me wanting attention, and for starting fights with me instead of just telling me what's on his mind. He said he was embarrassed, that's why he's been defensive. He admitted that he'd been feeling insecure lately. He's noticed he's gained a bit of weight while I've been getting more fit from the gym, and it was bringing up his own insecurities. But we're good now. We updated our gym going to just whenever our schedules please us, if it's convenient to go together. I also got him to agree to try a class with me. He gets to pick which one. He's leaning toward a HIIT class, which isn't my favorite, but it's a compromise. We also made a promise to try for proper date nights each month. We got tickets to see Avatar: Last Airbender in concert next month. It was something we both wanted to see, and it'll be nice to dress up and go out together. He's going to try and surprise me with flowers, me surprise him with cute gifts, and also more spontaneous lovemaking. As for the financials, we were looking into renewing our lease when it ends, but now we might consider finding somewhere cheaper. I'm supposed to be covering a mat leave position starting June. Hopefully the extra cash can help elevate the stress. This will probably be an ongoing discussion for us. Also, we agreed to stop breathing so much of each other's air, and take more opportunities to do individual side quests. He's going to start playing basketball with some guys from work on Thursday evenings, and I'm going to look into joining a book club or maybe taking a cooking class. Last night I went to a Pilates class on my own, and he met up with some friends to watch a game. When I got home, he had picked up ice cream from my favorite place. Small gestures, but it's a start. And I didn't feel the need to check what he was wearing when he went out with his friends, because trust goes both ways. Tomorrow, we're planning to try a new restaurant that opened nearby. We're both going to dress up a bit, like we used to when we first started dating. It feels like we're both making an effort to address the actual issues, not just arguing about the gym. Sorry for the fucking novel. But thank you to everyone that gave me advice. I feel silly for freaking out on Reddit, but I appreciate all of your insights, it helped me so much.